Hello, my friends. This is the new documentary series of Netflix 2026, and this is my Korean boyfriend. So let's talk about the series and how basically five Korean men dating five Brazilian women and what future they have, basically. The difference is perfectly shown in this docu-series. But unfortunately, I'm not able to make the sound of this docu-series for multiple reasons. But I will make sure that you will have experience not just, hearing me, but I will show you the images and all the stuff you need to know. So, first character basically Cathy. Her initial partner from Korea is Jack. They met by chance on a train in Busan a year prior. She returns to Korea to clarify their undefined status. And then we have Luani. Luani is a singer who met Si-won on a dating app. They had a turbulent long-distance relationship for 4 months before she traveled to meet him. Then we have Camila. Her partner is non-existent yet. She is just single. As of right now, I'm not sure with whom she is right now, but at that point, her basically prior goal was self-discovery. Because she was born in Seoul, in Korea, and raised in Brazil. She was 3 years old when she moved to Brazil. And then after her, we have Morena. Morena, another musician, who had been dating Soo Wong for nearly a year. They had previously visited each other in both Brazil and South Korea. This woman probably has the most established relationship in this reality show because her boyfriend, he is about to propose to her in this reality show. She is the only person out of all 5 women who is so solidifying her position. And last woman, Mariana. Mariana is a singer, another singer, bro. We have 2 singers. And Morena, a musician. We have 3 basically musicians. And Mariana is a singer-songwriter who had never met Danny in person before the show. They communicated daily online for 4 months. Okay, so this is clear who is who is with whom. So they arrived basically after 30 hours flight to Korea from Brazil. They arrived to Seoul. And after they arrived in Seoul, they are about to reunite with their partners. But let's see, first of all, how they basically represent themselves, because in this docu-series, a lot of focus not only on the relationship, but on the personalities and how they basically struggle with differences and with their past, with their Brazilian past, and how in Korea it's different. to adapt, first of all. So basically, this is like not just a regular dating reality show or something like this. It's definitely more than that. So while they basically discussing their partners, one of those basically texted to who she is, Kathy. And this is Jack who basically texted Kathy, and as we know, they met before on a train in Busan, and she doesn't have that established relationship yet. She doesn't have a lot in common with Jack, but she is already going on her first date with Jack. Because this TV show, this docu-series, it is documentary, mostly documentary, so it's focusing a lot on the communication and experience in completely different environments. It's focusing heavily on the differences, and they trying to push those differences as much as possible to make it so noticeable. So Jack arrived. First of all the gestures, especially highlighted by the creators, they multiple times pointing out to how basically Korean men, they used to basically make those gestures like open doors, all that stuff, pulling out chair, making women comfortable wherever they go. Basically, this is their like inherent gestures, hospitality, something similar basically to my country. Since I'm living in the Central Asia, I know exactly why they do that, and I understand perfectly why this man Jack, that's shy, why he is not comfortable, why he's not so comfortable from the very beginning of this conversation. Since we are learning more from series, movies, and documentaries, reality shows, this considered reality show, docu-series, this is the perfect example of how sometimes you need to read the room. Read the room is the most important part of building strong connection, because if you're not able to read the room, if you're just not feeling the vibe of a woman who is next to you, like for example Kathy, she is so energetic Brazilian woman. Something is so common for Brazilian women, energy and warm, more touchy personality, you know? So she is like expressing her openness to talking on different subjects, but Jack mostly basically leading the conversations to robotic, generic subjects like what allergies you have, what basically sport you like. It's not really naturally coming, but seems to be forced and making so uncomfortable a person like Kathy, who basically used to more natural conversations with no forced topics like this, and she feels like maybe she is just attending an interview rather than a date, because he's asking those questions and without even talking about what he is feeling towards Kathy, or without making those basically compliments or something. He did say something about your attractiveness, but since this is a date, this is not an interview, maybe this boy Jack, this man, he needed more prioritizing your appearance. You can notice how beautiful and how stylish she is. You can see her red hair. You can basically notice a lot of accessories she is wearing. You can notice a lot of things. You can make those perfect topic for a conversation, and I think women like when you're talking about their appearance, when you're making this as a good compliment. So he had multiple basically topics to start this conversation, but I don't think that he had any idea how better start that conversation. Maybe not everyone knows that, and you can learn from somebody's experience like this, and you can basically avoid the same mistakes. For Luani, basically this is completely different situation. She has a daughter in Brazil. Her Korean boyfriend, Si-won, he is 35. He is highly, what is called, loving person, so attentive, showing up for Luani, giving her this flower. They already have their past. They made it clear that basically they met before. So this is not first time, and it seems to be like they are so comfortable with each other. They look perfectly together. He is immediately making like romantic gestures, even though he is making this a little bit funny, because these books, for example, it wasn't really any ring, any present, it was just a translator. He pulled out this headphones or something just to communicate, because the language barrier is the strongest problem for this couple. They do not speak English, neither of those two. Luani speaks Portuguese, and of course Si-won speaks Korean. He used this basically first date after they reunited. He used this first date to improve their communication and to kind of re-establish their relationship. He even pulled off Brazilian song. He learned this song specifically for this occasion. So this man perfectly knows what to do in what time, and he knows perfectly how to use this moment, because he performed song in Brazilian, in Portuguese, even though he doesn't speak even English or any other language a part of his native Korean. So this definitely works because Luani, she is just not stopping smiling. She cannot basically stop smiling, and her face just telling you that she is happy. Yet, she is happy just now. Because this man is described as the most complicated man out of all the Korean men she could have possibly met. Of course, it's exaggerated, but it's kind of is. So we coming back to Kathy and her date with Jack, and it's still the same boring subjects. They talking about sport, fighting. Kathy made clear that she likes fighting. So basically, this man Jack using this topic to its full extent. He is not just stopping after getting to know that she likes fighting. She is basically asking more questions, whether she likes specific fighters, if she knows some specific fighters, popular ones. But all those conversations, they do not do anything with their relationship. And any potential pairing of these two is just so impossible, since they basically seem so uncomfortable and no question asked, no compliment made to make that uncomfortable situation a little bit more comfortable, you know what I mean? In Luana's situation is the opposite, because this man making her comfortable every time he speaks, but he has his own problems. He has big issues with financial situation. He has a lot of stuff going on in his life, but he made it clear that first date is just about Luani, about her appearance, about their future. He discusses all things regarding them. He is not taking this conversation to unrelated topics like sport, even though it's not bad, but he is keeping this conversation about them. He is keeping this conversation about her, about their future. Of course, it's working, even though she's not satisfied with his bad habits. He has pretty bad habits with financial, priorities. Basically, for him to change his life and to stop spending money to stop making bad investments, to start living differently, he needs to be married to Luani. This is exactly what he said. So in this situation, kind of the possible way out is just either accepting that this man is going to be finding his way out of that financial situation, or just walking out completely and finding someone else. And because he making a lot of bad investments, but he has a lot of good traits, he is not a bad person. And that basically outweighs his bad habits, since she knows exactly that he is attentive, he is showing up, he is caring, he is really just taking care of her, not financially, but in terms of everything else. She is not pushing him back yet. But she cannot explain that, of course, to anybody else, because nobody else understands. All other women who is basically a part of this series, all 5 women, they are so different. Maybe coming from different backgrounds, and of course they have different types of boyfriends. Some of them even do not have any boyfriend. So it's so easy to just see things from the outside, but it's completely different to be in the situation and to give advices when you're really experienced or going through something like this. So basically, Mariana coming to her date. Mariana basically didn't meet her boyfriend first time she arrived to participate in this project. He didn't pick her up at the airport. He didn't pick her up. It kind of upsets her. It's making the initial impression kind of bad, but we know that basically they never met before. Mariana and Danny, they never met before in person. They communicated daily, but online for 4 months. Kind of short period, and so early to tell what kind of relationship they have. Probably the kind of person that kind of person Danny has is similar to other participants of this series, and I'm talking about another 2 or 3 maybe Korean men. They are so similar in terms of the how they basically treat women. They all just coming with flowers. They do the same type of treatment. Open doors, all those gestures. They all know how to do that, but not all of them know how to talk to women, and especially when it comes to social meetings, parties, hanging out, outings. For example, this night basically was specifically to spend time together without their Korean counterparts, without their boyfriends from Korea, without their initial partners. They went to this club, and for example, some of local men started to flirt with one of the participants from Brazil. And Camila Kim, we know that she was born in Seoul, Korea, but when she was 3 years old, she moved to Brazil. So technically she is Brazilian. She does speak Korean, but she doesn't feel herself Korean. She feels herself Brazilian. And the dynamic that night at the club, it's something so strange to Camila. But the only thing that I really didn't like about this character, she is talking about a person standing next to her in her native language. Not in native, but she is speaking in her first language, which is Portuguese. And she is speaking that not in a good manner. She's speaking like she doesn't like him, but he is standing right next to her, which is basically kind of weird. She could have basically made all that comments regarding that person once she got out of that club. But when that person just right next to you, you better keep those comments. And no matter how bad that person is, if you want to make commentary about that person, it's better to make those. And it's better that the person you're making comment about understanding every word you just told. But the language barrier again, making it impassable. Meanwhile, basically, there is another date with Mariana and Danny. They seem basically having a good time. Their date is just perfectly, I don't know, chill and undemanding. The only thing I really noticed is how many Korean boyfriends, how many Korean participants, they do the same thing. They like highly attentive, they showing up, maybe not all of them, but they do make all those gestures. They kind of trying to show that they taking care of those women, but multiple times when it comes to weird moment, like they feel like there is no topic left to talk to about, there is no like, there is just no conversation happening, and you need to fill that void. You need to tell something, you need to basically make compliments, you need to do something. And Mariana basically, she was making it clear that she is ready for more. She is ready for getting this conversation, getting this relationship to a new level. How she made this sure? Basically, every time Danny tells her something like he went to gym this morning, she is immediately making compliment or making it like she is ready to get to know more about that specific part of his life. He goes to gym every day, of course. It's a good thing, but for her it's not that he is going to gym that important. For her, it's more important to use his gym, his new habits, his new, I don't know, passion for gym, for example, to use this as a point of their connection. She wanna use this to basically connect more with Danny. And I don't know how it's so different in Korea, but when women just making you straight compliments about your hair, your appearance, your body shape, your, I don't know, skin, face, anything, it is a good sign you need to use to your advantage. You don't need just to let it go like this. Just capitalize on those compliments, since she making those compliments, not you making those compliments, even though Mariana is just deserving all the compliments. She is so beautiful. But it seems like Korean men, they used to more conservative approach, because even after Mariana made multiple compliments towards Danny, he didn't make any compliments in return. Instead, he just accepted those kind of, yes, I do that. I go to gym. I just went today. I just went this morning. Yes. It's good. Yes, yes. But he is not capitalizing on her openness to something more, because she doesn't just make those comments for no reason. She is making him comfortable to make maybe some compliments about her in return. It's difficult to understand for other cultures. When you're completely from different culture, you probably used to different approaches, like more conservative, and especially in Central Asia or in Korea, basically that people used to see like more restrained approach, not just kissing at the very first date, not just maybe holding hands, but in more like conservative way. At this point, he's asking her, no, there is very important moment. She is asking Danny if he thinks that she looks the same on her photo as in real. So if he thinks that she is as beautiful in reality as on her photos. What is this question meaning in this situation? She is not just asking if she is looking the same as on her photos. She is telling him, make me some compliments about how beautiful I am, even more beautiful than on my photos. This is what she is telling him. She is not asking him. She is making this cue. She is helping this boy Danny, and she is navigating him, but she is just making this in her more straightforward way. And for a lot of men, not only Korean men, sometimes they are that stupid to understand. And instead of basically making compliments about how beautiful she is, and that she is even more beautiful than on her photos, he is answering this. Actually, yeah. Yeah. You look the same as on your photos. So, is it a good answer? It's kind of neutral. It doesn't tell anything. It doesn't tell anything about your appearance. It doesn't tell anything about your beauty. He just said she looks the same as on photos. It could even mean that she looks worse. Maybe she doesn't like the way she looks on photos because of a lot of filters, or maybe she doesn't want him to answer this directly. She wants him to make that compliment again. Then he asks her if she wants to do something specifically, if she wants to go somewhere, maybe if she has some preferences, how to spend this time, this night. Bro, you should never ask. You should just take and go any place, any favorite place you have in Seoul, in Korea. This is your city, you know a lot of good places. I'm not just telling this because I need to tell something, but never ask, just offer. He should have offered instead of asking. Of course, she didn't basically tell him, yes, I need that. I need to go to a restaurant. I need you to take me to a restaurant. I need you to give me delicious Korean food. I need you to show me the beautiful Korean opera. He should have just taken her somewhere. So she's making those cues. She is showing him that basically he can touch her. She touches him, but why she's doing that? I don't think that his hair is so unique or something that really just, women want to touch. She just doesn't know how to make it clear that she is ready for next level. So she is touching his hair. She is making compliments, like she is asking if he cut his hair or not. Maybe that really worked, because after that, at some point, he started to finally do the same. But after she told Danny that she is freezing, that it's cold, maybe she needs hugging. Maybe she needs to go to drink something. Maybe she needs to warm up. Maybe she needs a better place than just sitting on the street or what is bridge. She needs to be taken somewhere, but instead of that, basically, instead of offering her to go to somewhere, he is like, yeah, of course. You're freezing. I know, it's cold. Yeah. Let's just come back to our houses. Let's just stop this date. He is immediately agreeing to her being freezing, her being cold. She wanna go maybe to, I don't know, to take some hot coffee, maybe some hot tea, but he didn't offer that. I don't know why. I don't know if she really wanted to go to somewhere. I cannot know that, but I feel like she knew exactly what she wanted. And it wasn't just to stop this date, it was something. But he wasn't really able to read the room. And after they left each other, something happened even more important. I noticed multiple things about this specific couple. First of all, before they went their separate ways, Danny expressed that Mariana is specifically attractive when she turns around like this. When she turns around, for Danny it seems to be more charming or something like from K-dramas, Korean dramas. It is. She is so good looking, and of course you can take a lot of good pictures like this. But she did turn around twice. And what does this mean? On her way back, she turned around twice, but he never turned around. She just turned twice to see if he doing the same, if he is returning that attention, if he is paying attention how she is walking back. He did say that he liked the way she turning around, so this is it. Her turning around, but she was waiting if he is turning around to catch that moment, She wanted to catch that moment, that specific moment. Maybe she imagined that moment because all those women, they basically know how K-dramas, Korean dramas, they so heavily focusing on moments like this to dramatize, to make more drama out of every single moment, So she wanted that little drama, K-drama. But he just stupidly walked away and never turned his head even once to see what he said he likes about Mariana. Meanwhile, basically other women, they are in the same club partying. This time, basically, the only single person, Camila, Korea-born woman, and who's been raised in Brazil since 3 years old. She speaks Korean as well, so she has no problem to communicate with local men. She can find somebody, but she didn't like the way basically how pushy and how intense those local men are. For example, those two, and specifically one guy was hitting on Camila, but they just went separate ways and never even shared their information. She didn't give him her number. She didn't give him any chance to reunite. But she has that type of personality. While she is so like friendly towards her woman counterparts, towards her Brazilian counterparts, she can be a little bit too much for Korean men to understand the way they need to approach her. They seem like so clumsy and, I don't know, weird around Camila, and not only Camila, they seem so weird around Brazilian women, especially beautiful ones. Like, obviously attractive, undeniably attractive women. Camila is one of those. They cannot act naturally, and they seem forcing those. They seem forcing every question, every conversation. This is why basically Camila was so uncomfortable around this man. And maybe this is why she was kind of rude, because she was basically talking about this man when he was standing right next to her, but she was talking about him in Portuguese, so he couldn't really understand any word, but still, she could have kept those commentary about him and his friends once they got out of that club. This is the better way to do so. Because you went to that club specifically to hang out, to spend that time, and being surrounded by local people, you should have prepared yourself to meet somebody like this. And she even made that commentary about that basically annoying man is universal thing. Annoying men at clubs are universal thing. It doesn't matter where you go. Those annoying people, they would follow you probably everywhere. So she could have prepared herself for this. She knew where she goes. She knew basically what to expect from that place. So this is why the reaction should have been way more restrained, at least. At least nobody getting upset about Camila not satisfied with Korean local men hitting on her. And since she is a single, this is possibly why she went to that club, to meet somebody, right? So, by going to a club, you're just making it obvious, and going just with your friends, going with your friends with women, you're making it clear that maybe you are open to something. So nothing wrong with hitting on somebody, especially at a club. If you are at, I don't know, any other place that just not fitting into that flirting environment. Maybe it's not appropriate, but since she was in a club, she could have used that moment just to see maybe if that man is not so annoying as she thinks he is. Maybe he is just that intense. Maybe he is just trying to make that first impression so hard. So for other women in this reality show, in this docu-series, it seems a little bit more undemanding, I would say, since all of them kind of really appreciate being in presence of local people, local men specifically, because for them, basically, Korean culture, Korean relationship, Korean dramas, everything they watched from K-dramas, from Korean series, from all those exaggerated dramas, everything they know originated to romanticized series, romanticized movies, and they kind of unconsciously, maybe, they putting that bar a little bit lower just because they want that K-drama to be real. They want to see that K-drama happening right in front of them. So they do not put any clear boundaries. They want to see if those Korean men actually can be the same men from those K-dramas, the same men from those series and movies, and maybe they feel like pushing so hard boundaries and setting limits. This would ruin their experience in Korea, especially since they are looking for that experience. But since basically this reality show only month, and during that month they need to either get their relationship with their Korean boyfriends to a next level, or they need to walk away from that relationship. So there is like two different choices to make. If you like basically the current relationship you are in, if you like that current boyfriend you have, for example, Luani, she already knew the type of man she was dating. That boyfriend, Si-woon, with financial problems, with big trauma, who basically experienced something like his parents' divorce, and after that basically his parents went through some financial situation, and that heavily impacted his life. So Luani basically hearing all that realizing that maybe he would never change because of that situation and his parents' financial situation. He is not able to manage his finances properly. He is spending money and he is not basically making any good investments. Meanwhile, basically, Luani spending her own money to come to Korea, to maybe to go to buy some things, and she is in a huge debt. She needs to pay off that debt. At the same time, she knows that this boy, this Korean man she's dating, he is in another debt, maybe even bigger. It's something like, it's something she obviously needs to consider, since she knew exactly what type of man she was dating. Maybe it wasn't really a good choice to come to Korea again, knowing that Si-woon, her boyfriend, he probably never changed, because you cannot just pay off any debt, any big money that fast. And forcing this into reality show, making this work on reality show, making this work on the screen, it's even worse, because she needs to act a little on camera. She needs to maintain this relationship, and she needs to think about not hurting his feelings. At the same time, she has her daughter in Brazil and she has her debt. So going on reality show, not making it any easier, maybe even worse. But there is the most dedicated couple and the most established relationship out of all participants of this reality show. And basically this woman Mariana and Morena. This is Morena, a musician who had been dating Soo Wong for nearly a year. They had previously visited each other in both Brazil and South Korea. So this is not really surprising that he is already proposing to her a year into this relationship, and she is getting engaged. So this seems to be the less problematic, I would say, relationship on this reality show. And this man seems to be the only mature, the only really person who is really ready, who is just mature enough to get this relationship on another level to make it work like this. He is just making simple things, taking her to a restaurant, a good one, making this day special, reading her some letter, and then proposing to her. Just everything just like from Korean dramas, from K-dramas. He made it really like just from that script. A little bit robotic and a little bit really generic, but still, it works. And other guys from this project, they should take notes from this guy, how to make this work, how to make Brazilian women happy. Apparently, not necessarily just proposing, but at least taking her to some good place, not just keeping them on the streets freezing and asking them questions, enforcing conversation, and basically here is even something this guy basically Si-woon, he made some confession about his past and why he is so bad at investments and why his financial situation is so bad. But should he really just confess this to his woman he's been dating on reality show, or should he just keep it private and talk to her outside of the camera, just not showing that on camera? I think probably to make it dramatic, of course, they wanted to show every moment, especially like this, when he's confessing that he confessed that he's paying off his debt, that basically he's gonna have a stable life with Luani, with his Brazilian girlfriend. But of course, it seems to be not forced. Nobody can force you to confess something like this. But if he really just wanted to talk about this topic, finances and all that, he could have revealed that long ago, maybe. Before even she came to Korea, before she came to Korea, if he revealed right away that basically he is still broke, that the financial situation is still bad, maybe she would choose not to participate in this reality show, because it seems like she came to take care of a grown man while she has her daughter in Brazil that she needs to take care of, not this 35 years old man, not this Korean grown up man. But since basically they already participating in this reality show, there is no way back, easy way back. There is contracts they signed, they need to complete and make all 8 episodes or whatever, make all this season. At the same time, she understands that she doesn't want to be anyone's string. To be someone's string in her situation is the least desired. But to participate in this reality show maybe opens more possibilities to anybody, because first of all, you're getting recognition on social medias. Why this is important? Because this is making you some income from your social medias like Instagram. It can help potentially your financial situation. Even if she spent those money to come to Brazil, to come to Korea, if she has her debt, maybe she can pay off the debt by participating in this reality show, and all that money from social medias can cover all the expenses. But the relationship she is in, it's already dead. It was dead on arrival. Because if no woman dating that man with debt, if no woman from Korea dating that man with debt, maybe you should have done the same. Maybe you should have looked at somebody who is in less trouble than this one. And there is nothing wrong with that. Even if you feel something for that person specifically, you still have your life. You need to take care of your daughter, and you understand that. But I feel so bad if they really capitalized on his financial situation and on all this drama with his trauma, just to make hype, just to make another scene with him crying and all that stuff. I feel so bad if they just used them to make this soap opera. But if that happened naturally, if he really confessed his financial problems just because he wanted, and nobody really encouraged him to do so, if he just made that comment because he wanted, then there is nothing wrong about this. So this night, basically all participants reunited. They basically celebrated an engagement of Morena and Soo Wong. Since Soo Wong proposed to Morena, they wanted to gather all the men, all the boyfriends, and all the Brazilian women, all 5. This meeting was just casual conversation, and during that meeting, some of those women, they probably discovered unexpected interest in other men that initially basically were partners of their counterparts from Brazil. For example, this man, Jack, initially he was a partner of Katy. And he seemed to be boring for Katy. Katy made it clear that basically they stay friends, that he is just completely the opposite of a man that she needs to be with. Only just friends. And she found another man, a friend of Danny. Danny is a man of Mariana, Mari. He found this man more interesting than Jack. Even this short conversation allowed her to prioritize more engaging conversation over conversation based on physical attractiveness of your partner. She definitely felt more attracted to Jack physically, but since he was boring and because he just discharged from Korean military, he was looking for something like finding himself after military. Maybe he was more thinking about his future rather than their future with Katy. This is pretty understandable. On the other hand, Katy wants engaging and she wanna basically that type of life that she is already living, partying, doing all the stuff she is used to. But her initial partner, he came from completely different background, and military maybe made him even more different because he now prioritizes just conversation about future, sport, everything but not relationship. He is not talking about relationship, or he's not making this relationship work in any way, because Katy basically wanted somebody who is just immediately making it work from the very first date. So she needed somebody like who is already socialized. Maybe this man would have been perfect choice, but is he physically as attractive as that man Jack? I think like for Katy, the answer is no. She knows exactly what attracts her physically, but she knows exactly that mentally and emotionally, this man, he is more similar to a man she wants to date. And this man, he is more distant from her dream man, even though he looks like her dream man. Emotionally, he is not her dream man. And maybe the moment that I see this man Jack sitting so far from Katy, it tells the same thing that I'm just telling you, that they have no really future. If he wanted, he could have just pushed everybody around to sit next to her to talk about their relationship, to make some, I don't know, compliments. Again, he could have really done a lot of things, but he preferred just to sit far from Katy because maybe he already knew that she doesn't like him. So he is okay with that. And this is already, of course, that this is not gonna work. If he is okay with that, this is not gonna work. But if she is okay with it, you can still do something about it. You can still make her change your mind, but without forcing, of course. Something like Luani doing with this man, Sin Woon. They have basically similar personalities in terms of how they emotionally connect to people. Maybe he is a little bit conservative and weird because he cannot clearly express himself, and language barrier making it even harder. He's speaking Korean only. He is trying to make comments about Brazilian women, how straightforward and strong personalities, so like prevalent in Brazilian women. He is trying to make this as compliment. He means good. He doesn't mean bad. He doesn't try to hurt. But due to this language barrier, it sounds like he is meaning bad, that he is making this as, something he criticizes. But she is explaining him basically that strong personality, independence is something all Brazilian women just value, and you cannot just take it away. If you don't like it, she told him, if he didn't like it, he could have just came to his, I don't know, she said Turkish woman, because he cheated previously on her with Turkish woman. So she said, go to your Turkish woman, go to Turkey. And Turkey, if you know, is different culture, different from Brazil, from Brazilian culture as well, and from Korean culture. But Turkey, it has more similar traits to Korean culture because it can be conservative, not as conservative maybe as Korean culture, but she made good points anyway. If he didn't like it, if he didn't like straightforwardness and openness, being touchy, being present, being like being Brazilian, maybe he could have just chosen somebody else with completely different culture. Something I really understand, because you need just to make you need to basically understand if you want Brazilian woman, if you want date Brazilian woman, you have to adapt to their culture. You do not need to change. You do not need to make them question their culture. You do not need to make them doubt their culture or make them uncomfortable with their culture. Everything you need is just making compliments and talking about your appearance, talking about how beautiful Brazilian women are and how beautiful she looks. Never speak anything if you do not know what to speak. If you do not need anything to tell, just shut up. This is the best advice I can tell. No need to make these stupid comments about culture, about Brazilian women, about other things. And on this point, I think this first part of this reality show, My Korean Boyfriend, is ending because we have 4 more episodes left. If you know something specifically about differences in Korean and Brazilian culture, if you know more about the overall like most common characteristic of Korean men and most common characteristic of Brazilian women, please type it in the comment section. I want to know more from different people, different countries, not just from the Google, from the information that I found on the internet. I want to hear more from people who actually live in those countries, in Korea, in Brazil. I want to hear from you. If you know, if you Brazilian or Korean, share something and maybe you know better. Maybe I'm wrong about something. I would appreciate any commentary. Thank you for watching and see you next time. And take care of yourself in 2026. It's mentioned as a year of healing and serious relationships, so we are so ready, but you need to be careful in not just jumping into first relationship. But this reality show, this docu-series is a perfect example of why you do not have to jump into first relationship, even though it's Korean and different country, and a possibility of traveling, a possibility of emerging into another culture. You still need to preserve your, I don't know, you need to preserve and to prioritize your health, because it's not worth to go to completely different country, to go on the other end of the planet, to go to on the other continent and just discover that it was all for nothing, because you could have found somebody even better in your own country, but you went to completely different continent. You went to different continent. You made all that 30 hours flight to Korea just for somebody who is in the same debt, in the same trouble as you are. So this is something you need to think about, not just about relationship itself, but about your priorities. And in 2026, I think better prioritize your well-being over somebody's offers, somebody's intentions. Just ignore anybody who is not in any way fulfilling your desires, physically or emotionally. If that person is just not made for you and you can recognize it. For example, Luani, she recognized that that person, he has a lot of good traits. He is not a bad person, but he walked away. He basically got offended because he didn't like the way Luani talked to him. It seemed a little bit rude to this man, but they already made clear that basically Brazilian women, they are straightforward. They appreciate direct conversation without playing games. If you don't like it, just go away. He did go away, but at this point, I don't think that the reality show is going to let him go forever, because they need some drama. They need to capitalize on the drama. Maybe they need somebody like this to stay longer, to push this drama even more. And maybe in some way it's even better for this person, Si Woong, since he has a lot of financial problems. And she told that she has her debt. They can pay off all those money and just go separate ways. I think this is exactly what's happening. And she will take care of her daughter. She will take care of her daughter in Brazil. And he will take care of his situation as well. But in reality, you should have never even let situation like this go this far. not even talking about participating in reality show, because it's exposing your shit to millions of people. But in reality, you should have stopped this relationship once you realize that basically your partner and his problems, they are going to overlap with your problems, and it's gonna become even bigger problem, and this like snowball effect is gonna be forever, like more of the problems from that person, from your life, and you see no sign of changes. So this is why for Luani, this is just that relationship. She needs to kind of stop focusing on this man, and since she is in Korea and she is participating in a reality show, she has so many options to walk away from this relationship as a winner. She can find somebody in clubs, in streets, unexpectedly. She can find anybody, since she is really beautiful and young. So I think this is everything about My Korean Boyfriend docu-series from Netflix, and once we get more, maybe we will do something more about this reality show, because it's really interesting in terms of how they managing their partners, how they managing their relationship. But at the same time, sometimes I think there is a lot of stuff that I think I can do different, but I can do differently that because I see that happening on the screen in front of me. I see people making mistakes, but if I really can make something differently, or if I'm just seeing that because I see those mistakes from the reality show, it's completely different. If you can avoid the same mistakes, or if you can learn something from this reality show, and if you can adapt this into your life. For example, in Luana's situation, it's probably never dating somebody who is in more trouble than you are, especially when you have somebody to take care of. Your daughter. Is it a good lesson? I think so. In this TV show, in this reality show, you have a perfect couple, let's say. They have no trouble like this. They have no liabilities like this. No daughter, no children. Basically, they have all the future in front of them. So this is why they getting engaged immediately. First date and she's getting engaged. This is how it's happening. But all other participants, they have their troubles. And this is why I like to see more of this reality show, because I want to see how they manage to walk away from their current relationships and to find something that would really work. Because you can really learn something from that. Thank you for watching. See you next time.